If you grill it, he will come.
Hey.
Hey.
Is this heaven?
Nope. It's Fareway.
Chris Hassel, Andrew Downs. It's time for Instant Iowa. Immediate analysis and reaction presented by Fareway Meat Grocery. From the Channel Seed Studios, this is Iowa Everywhere.
It is Instant Iowa, and we are up before the game even ends because we know the Hawkeyes are bringing the pig back to the great state of Iowa. It is Instant Iowa presented by Fareway. We are in the Channel Seed Studios. Chris Hassel with Andrew Downs. This is the third game of the season, Andrew, where it didn't look good at halftime, or at least we didn't feel good at halftime. In the second half, Iowa turns things around. Kaleb Johnson goes for 200-plus yards and 3 touchdowns. And most importantly, Iowa starts the Big Ten season off on the right foot with a blowout victory. They run away from Minnesota late in the game.
Incredible, Chris, the difference I feel compared to how I felt at halftime again. And, I saw you tweet something, I think, at halftime, and I saw some other people, this is a second-half team, or at least a one-half team. Now, 4 games in a row, they've played well for one half and really haven't for the other half. So it's not a trend you like to see moving forward, but I guess if the second half is good enough to get the victory. Speaking of the victory, there's a reason we drink the beer here. It's in heaven there is none.
Yeah.
Got the swarm going.
Hell yeah.
Trying to pay some Cade McNamara NIL money.
You paying for some of that, whatever it is, $750,000.
Or maybe just enough to keep Kaleb Johnson, because he's quickly running himself into an NFL job next season. This guy is incredible.
Over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, exited the game after peeling off another explosive run and maybe a little cramping. You noticed that he kind of winced as he was coming off the field, maybe grabbing at a hamstring. Chad Leistico was reporting that the training staff was not looking at him. He seemed to be okay. He was walking around with a helmet, but we didn't see him out there after the game. This sets up something really interesting in 2 weeks because you've got the bye week, the way Kaleb Johnson has been running. You've got Ohio State and a huge stage where if he goes out there and does what he's been doing against Ohio State, then the Heisman talk becomes real. Yeah. But let's be honest. This is Iowa as a team and Kaleb Johnson. They have to show up against Ohio State. They can't get steamrolled. Johnson can't get shut down. I'm just glad that we're here talking about what can be moving forward, because as we talked about all week, AD, this was a must-win, and Iowa emphatically wins it.
They did, yeah. 31-14 looks like it's going to be the final score. Still about a minute left in the game as we record this right now, or are live. And it. Let's hold off on the Ohio State conversation. Just let's enjoy this just a little bit, okay? Just a little bit. Again, if it felt so bad at halftime, Iowa started well and had the big Higgins interception. Reese Dakin was punting the hell out of the ball. It was like, okay, this is old school Iowa football.
Yeah,
Kaleb Johnson.
It was like they were back to their bread and butter, right?
Yeah,
it was like Iowa of old. They're just going to squeeze Minnesota. I felt extremely confident when it was 7-0, and 100%. Then everything kind of changed when they started getting pressure on Cade McNamara, and then they started to hit some big plays on offense. And the defense is something we'll have to talk about as well, though they were great in the second half. Want to give a shout-out to a brand-new sponsor here at Instant Iowa and Iowa Everywhere. It's Hoodoo.
Hoodoo.
Yes, Scott Sipker and Hoodoo. When you need to get shit done, they are there for you, okay? And I love them because they're not afraid to cuss. I mean, Scott just cusses on their commercials. They gave us copy, and it says right here, need to get shit done? Have that honeydew project still on your list? Got a nagging need around your property that you just don't want to deal with yourself? Just hoodoo it, okay? Download the Hoodoo app or visit heyhoodoo.com to list your project that you've been putting off and watch the bids come in. You got home projects that they could do, photography. I mean, it's almost anything. Vehicle detailing, hauling, yard work. If you got a job that needs done, as long as it's legal.
Yeah, if it's legal, it's got to be legal.
Hoodoo is going to get that shit done, okay?
That's another cool, like, locally owned business as well. Like the Hoodoo, it's an app that's available in a lot of different places and is a really cool thing. That is a like Iowa owned.
Yeah, Scott's one of the owners.
Company, right?
For a limited time, you can get $50 off your first job. Hoodoo, the easiest way to get shit done.
Hawkeyes got shit done tonight. They're going to get Floyd as we speak. The game has gone final. I see Kirk on NBC getting interviewed, and there is the pig, Chris, back where it belongs. The replay officials couldn't fuck us out of this one, even though they tried a handful of times. Man, we can't buy a replay against Minnesota. I felt like that Jazz Patterson touchdown at the end of the game or near the end of the game. I thought on replay it looks like that's a touchdown to me. The catch in the first half that felt like such a big play in the moment by Minnesota. I don't see how you call that a catch, especially on replay.
I don't either, because and it might not even be the letter of the law that I'm going off of. It's just going off of all the reviews that I've seen over the years that I've been a part of calling games. More often than not, that is not a catch, because it just didn't seem to me like he ever really controlled it. He pinned it for like maybe a tenth of a second, and then the ball squirted out again. I'm just glad that it ended up not mattering at all. And look, if that wasn't going to be the be-all, end-all, it wasn't like the punt return that happened at the end of the game last season. But they're interviewing Kaleb Johnson right now. He's all smiles, doesn't look hurt at all. It's fantastic. 21 carries, 206 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. AD, I was going back through last year's games when Iowa started in Big Ten play. And look, they had to start at Penn State, and that was the ugliest game Iowa's played in a long time, losing 31-0. But Iowa did not pick up their 4th rushing touchdown until the 7th Big Ten game of the season.
Wow.
This is the first Big Ten game of the season. Kaleb Johnson had 3. Brendan Sullivan had another. And let's give credit to Tim Lester there as well, because that change has worked. Tim Lester and Kirk Ferentz.
I was really glad to see that they stayed with that this week.
Yes, and it looks as though anytime they get a first and goal is when they're going to put Sullivan in.
It's not a red zone thing. It's a first and goal.
And it's 4 for 4 now. 4 times he's come in on goal-to-go situations. 4 times Iowa has ended up with a touchdown. This
and that's
is
a
instant
situation
Iowa.
That lost the game against Iowa State for us.
Yes. That damn Iowa. That's the only game they didn't improve at halftime.
I was texting with a friend of mine. Yeah, it went the opposite way. They had a good first half and fell apart in the second. Texting with a friend of mine during the game, and it was like, man, this team isn't the 2002 team. I don't think this season is going to end up the way the 2002 season ended up. But as we sit here right now, that Iowa State loss feels a lot like that, where it's just going to stick in your craw all year long. And no matter what you do, no matter how many games you win or how you feel about some of those games, you're going to look back on that Iowa State game and, damn, you let one slip away there.
Instant Iowa, presented by Fareway here in the Channel Seed Studios. Chris Hassel and Andrew Downs. We came up around the 2-minute timeout, as they call it in college football. If you're listening to this on the podcast Sunday, Monday, final score 31-14. It's in the books. And I'm looking at the final yardage, the final tallies here. Minnesota at halftime had 222 yards. They finished with 288.
Jeez.
They had 66 yards in the second half. So, yeah, there will be a few more questions about the defense giving up some big plays, not 60-plus yard plays, but a couple 20-plus, 30-plus yard plays where Minnesota went boom, boom, boom and kind of seized control of the game going into halftime, but the adjustments were made in that second half. And I just feel like with Iowa's offense and the way they're able to run the ball, if they're running it like this, 272 yards tonight, without really any passing game.
Right.
Cade McNamara was 11 for 19, 62 yards.
62 yards passing.
What could this team be capable of if Cade McNamara in this throw game can get working just a little bit? Just a little bit. Not asking for a lot.
No.
But every time they completed a decent play through the air, 20-yarder to Estrenga, 18-yarder to Vanderzee, every time right after that they would hit a big run because you got to be able to show that you can at least go down the field a little bit to get some of those guys out of the box, to stop the run blitzing. And that's why the broadcast crew was talking about maybe it'd be a good idea to throw on first down to kind of change that up. And then as soon as he says that, they hand the ball off to Kaleb Johnson on first down, and he runs for a touchdown, 40 yards. So I feel like there is potential here.
Yeah.
There is major potential because the offense is light years ahead of where it was. You could not have convinced me that the offense would be this good, scoring-wise, yardage-wise, on the ground. I wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't.
With a quarterback who's not playing that well. I mean,
No.
the honest thing about Cade McNamara is he just doesn't really have it right now. And yeah, he got a lot of pressure in that second quarter, but some of that is he needs to be able to feel that and either make a play with his feet or get the ball out of there a little quicker. I mean, he missed some easy passes. Now, he also had some drops. I think, there were a couple of plays that were there for the receivers to make and help him out, and they didn't do that. There was some issues with the offensive line against that blitz.
The play
Minnesota.
that I loved, AD, and it's one of the longer throws of the day. It's the one pass he completed of more than 15 air yards. He only threw 2 of them. He completed 1.
Jeez.
When you've got single coverage on the outside, throw the ball up and give your wide receiver a shot. He did that with Vanderzee, and Vanderzee makes the catch.
Absolutely. Threw it on that back shoulder, threw it behind him, and hey, let him make a play. Estrenga made a great play, and just, it wasn't a catch ultimately down near the goal line as well on a similar thing where you throw it up and you trust your wide receiver or your pass catcher to beat his guy one-on-one. In both of those cases, they were able to do that. Hopefully that gives him a little bit more faith, I guess, in those guys moving forward, because we are going to need to be able to throw the ball more than we did today. Caleb Johnson is not going to be able to carry this team in every game. He seems to be good enough to carry this team in a lot of games. And yeah, I took some shit last week after saying, hey, if he plays like this, he's a Heisman candidate. I take no shit for that right now. I posted this picture earlier. That's my daughter with the Heisman Trophy a couple of years ago here in Des Moines. If
he is going to be talked about,
if you're averaging, if you're the leading rusher in the country, which he probably will be after tonight, the Boise State guy is playing right now, so I guess there's a chance he goes nuts. I think he was number 2 coming into the week. I looked at some of the other top 5 guys coming into the week, and they didn't put up 200-yard games today. He's averaging more than 2 touchdowns a game at this point, at least 2 in each game. And we talked about it last week. He missed the first half of the first game. How much did he play in the second half against Troy when that game, became a laugher? He's done this.
And he basically sat the whole fourth quarter.
Absolutely.
In this one.
And so he's doing this without playing full games. He is really, really good. But you're going to need to be able to take advantage of that with play action passing. You're going to need to be able to back those linebackers and those safeties off a little bit by throwing the ball. And so until Iowa does that, there is like a restrictor plate on this offense. Unless Kaleb Johnson is just going to take 30-yard runs over and over and over again.
Well, he did it on Saturday night in Minneapolis against the Gophers as Iowa wins it 31-14, gets the pig back to Iowa City. It wasn't even a contest with 10, 12 minutes to go in the game. Andrew drinking a little Swarm lager there. You can find that at the Iowa Tap Room, where they have 100 Iowa craft beers on tap. That is part of the Full Court Press family of restaurants and bars. Proud to partner with them here on Instant Iowa and Iowa Everywhere. Fong's Pizza, slinging pies late tonight. I mean, I feel like this is late for me. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. Fong's Pizza is going to be open for another 4 hours there in Des Moines. 2 a.m. every night, home of the original crab rangoon pizza.
Love that stuff. We get that. We get that DoorDashed probably once every other week.
You know what? I want to give some credit to a guy that I brought some heat to this week, and it's Reese Dakin. And the punt unit had a bad game last week, a low line drive kick that was returned for a touchdown. The punt unit was not good. The national numbers were not good. Net punting, not even in the top 100. But tonight, especially early in that game when field position was a major thing, he came up big. I think his first 3 of his first 4 punts were over 50 yards. He finished averaging just under 50 yards a punt with 3 inside the 20. And I think most importantly, none of them got returned.
Yeah.
They all had significant hang time, and there had to be a fair catch. So the punting average, 49.6, was the net. And coming into this game, Dakin was averaging 35.6 yards in net punting. And this really improves it. I knew that he was going to improve as a freshman.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he would be
didn't even know
as good as he was today.
He didn't even know American football existed like 8 months ago.
Somebody just came up to him and said, hey, we're going to be sending you to the States to play for this team called the Iowa Hawkeyes.
And it's so important because as we've seen through 4 games, this isn't going to be a drastically different Hawkeye team. The offense is certainly more competent, and I feel better about a lot of things. But they're going to play the way that they play, and one of the things that Phil Parker does is he'll allow you to dink and dunk and play a horizontal passing game, and that's what Minnesota got locked into in that first quarter and really struggled. And then again in the third quarter and the rest of the second half, it was that second quarter when they started to go vertical a little bit that they had a bunch of success. And then Iowa had some issues tackling. Again, we'll talk about the defense, but flipping the field the way that Reese Dakin was able to do a couple of times today, the way that we relied on Torrey Taylor to do, is so important because a team can go 50 yards on Iowa's defense, not easily, but it's a lot easier to do that than to go even 70 yards on Iowa's defense because, again, you can kind of dink and dunk and take those little 4 to 6 yard out routes and things like that. You can run the ball for 3 yards a pop. But are you going to make that mistake? Is Iowa going to come up as, are you going to short arm the throw and have Jay Higgins get the big interception? Another interception later in the game for the Hawkeyes. Are you going to make that mistake? More often than not, college quarterbacks are going to the longer the drive is. And so flipping the field like Reese Dakin did, again, a handful of times tonight was fantastic.
First 4 drives to start the second half for Iowa. Touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
Stepped on the neck. It's what they needed to do. After losing all the momentum in the second quarter, it really felt dire at halftime. You wonder what was said in that locker room. Obviously, Phil Parker made some changes. They blitzed a lot more coming out of that.
They got pressure on the quarterback. Brosmer, he wasn't facing any pressure in that first half.
He was so comfortable in that second quarter, way too comfortable. Like Rocco Becht in the second half of the Iowa State game. You can't let a quarterback get that comfortable. Iowa rattles quarterbacks so well. And you see what happens when they do.
Clean game again for Iowa, just 1 penalty. They, after that first game was an anomaly where they had a bunch of penalties. They have really cleaned that up. Look, this is perfect going into the bye week. I feel like this is the perfect timing. You didn't want that bye week to happen after the Iowa State game. You wanted it after, it kind of like Iowa State had after the Iowa game. You had the big win. Now you've got a bye week. Let's get healthy. Kaleb Johnson, if it was a cramp or whatever, he's going to be icing himself. 21 carries again for 206 yards. Patterson had 18 carries. I can't believe he carried the ball that much.
He played so well. He's such a good kind of change of pace back. He hits the hole really, really hard. I've really liked what I've seen out of him these first couple of games.
Chad Leistico from the Register and legends and listeners here on Iowa Everywhere just tweeted, Kaleb Johnson just had cramps, had hot tamales to get some sugar into his system. How about that?
You a hot tamale guy? You a hot tamale guy?
When I was a kid, I was. I loved the hot tamales.
My brother always loved them. They were too hot for me, but I didn't like spicy food when I was a kid. It wasn't until popcorn at Cooney's that I really got a liking for spicy food.
You were at Cooney's over the weekend.
I was at Cooney's last night. We went over to the Beaverdale Fall Festival, and it was like, it was my first night out in more than 3 months. We had a babysitter overnight. We went to see a band at the Beaverdale Fall Festival. Shout out to Bad Friends. They were awesome. And we were in Beaverdale. It was like, we got to go to Cooney's. I need to go get one of those bloodies. Like the first night back drinking. It was fantastic. It was. I was just texting with Brian Cooney. Hey, we're thinking about you. He's probably watching right now.
Yeah, Cooney, bringing it, man. Look, got to get the popcorn back though at Cooney's. I can't believe that they got rid of the popcorn. Must have been a health and safety.
I think it happened during COVID. Yeah, I think it did. It just never came back.
Want to thank another sponsor of Instant Iowa. We're officially sold out, by the way.
Awesome.
We can't take on any more sponsors. So many people want it on, but we're only going to allow the best.
Yes, exactly.
And I've been told that Quentin Crowner at Freedom Tire is thinking about letting me sing a jingle for Freedom Tire. Freedom! Freedom! The pig is free.
The pig is free.
The pig is free. Coming back to Iowa. Shout out to Freedom Tire. They love supporting locally owned family businesses. We do too at Iowa Everywhere. Freedom Tire is your home for new tires from every major brand, as well as vehicle maintenance and repairs, from preventative maintenance to major performance issues. Freedom Tire. Check it out. Altoona Ames, Floor Drive in Des Moines, West Des Moines, and it's on Hickman in Urbandale. Visit freedomtire.com.
Yeah, shout out to our sponsors, man. We really appreciate them, and everybody who's made this show already as successful as it's been. This was an idea you came up with like 8 days before the season started.
I was like, well, I don't have any games to call this year, so what? I might as well. I'm going to be watching the Iowa games. Now, I would prefer it if the games were a little earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Because I'm out here on the East Coast. I got to be in studio tomorrow for a 3-hour NFL pregame show on CBS Sports HQ that starts at 9 Central Time. So, I mean, it's...
How are you going to get your 13 hours of sleep?
I'm not going to be able to. And I'm all jacked up,
That's the thing. Games like this, night games, I enjoy night games while they're happening. I don't like the all-day lead up to it. That's one of the things I like about 11 a.m. games is like it's kickoff before you know it, before you've had too much time to like think about the game too much or be too anxious, watch too much other football. And then I don't like this late night because, even though it's only 10 after 10 here in central Iowa, I'm going to be up at least another 2 hours. Like I can't go lay in bed and shut my eyes.
No.
Like I'm all jacked. I'm going to be reading stories and going to watch. This is the fun part, right? Like watching the press conferences, like really soaking up all the content you can possibly soak up because you actually feel good about your team. Again, it wasn't a perfect game, and there are things to
as
work
Kirk
out.
always says, we got things to clean up.
But hey, that's football.
The number one thing, Andrew, that people are going to say, and we've seen a lot of it in the comments, is Cade McNamara and this passing game.
It's bad.
What Iowa is going to say is that why try to force something if we don't need to?
Right.
He throws for 62 yards, and you still win the game going away by 17 points because you ran all over them. What I don't understand, and it is really impressive. How the hell is Iowa running all over these teams?
Yeah.
With basically without the ability to throw the ball. How?
The only
if I'm a Minnesota fan, I'm pissed.
Absolutely. You can't stop that one guy.
Guy.
It's one guy. And he just ran all over you. He single-handedly won that game. You're exactly right. It makes it even better, the fact that, and this offensive line, again, has moments, but it isn't as good as I think we hoped they would be coming into the season. And so you've got no real help for now. He's gotten some good blocks. That Washington block on the play, it was a great design play. Here, I grabbed like the screenshot from when they kind of showed the play.
Yeah, that
everybody,
was awesome.
Tim Lester
play
drew
design.
this up so well. But Washington made that great block on the outside. Jacob Gill was out there.
This was the play from the 15-yard line. McNamara's in the shotgun.
And
Johnson's
McNamara was
to his
even out
left.
there trying to throw a block.
I
right?
love to see that.
That was
and
fantastic.
That's probably
that
one of the
bought
reasons
a lot of goodwill.
why you see McNamara as a team captain.
It bought a lot of
week
goodwill.
in
I
and
saw
week
it
out.
all over X and Twitter. I see it in our
Love
comments. It really did to throw yourself out there, because that's also been a criticism of McNamara, and I think a fair one. It seems like he's afraid to get hit. It seems like as soon as there's pressure, he instantly checks down. He like doesn't want to mess with it. I don't know if he's afraid of injury. Maybe it's just the way I'm seeing it, but it was good to see him kind of get out there and really want to put his body on the line for KJ.
So I know it's game night. The game just finished 20 minutes ago. The pig is in the possession of the Iowa Hawkeyes. But how are you feeling now about this season? More big picture here.
Yeah.
Compared to where you were before this game.
I feel justified in still having hope for the season. We talked about it all week. This was such a pivot game for the Hawkeyes. What kind of season are they going to have? Are they going to get up off the mat and really kind of show something? I don't expect them to go into Columbus and win in 2 weeks. I don't think that's a reasonable expectation. But then you look at the rest of the schedule. Nobody really looks that scary.
Nobody's going to be ranked come next week because Nebraska's going to fall out.
Nebraska's going to fall out. And Raiola looked like a freshman quarterback at times. Like that.
Yeah,
that's
man,
a guy that
God, he's good, but
he is.
He made some mistakes late.
And I mean that's a team that if I was going to have a good to great season, Iowa should go in and beat. Again, at halftime of this game, it really felt like Minnesota was a better team than Iowa, and that worried the hell out of me because I don't think Minnesota's that good. They're not terrible, but especially after you saw what North Carolina did today or didn't do.
Gave up 70 points to James Madison.
Absolutely, right? And so that's the one loss that Minnesota had coming into this game. So at halftime, it's like, man, not only am I concerned about what I've seen from Iowa, but if Minnesota's a better team than Iowa, then exactly, I need to kind of rethink a lot of these games that I have in the W column for the Hawkeyes. After seeing that second half, and again, assuming that things are going to get better after the bye week, I don't know that Brendan Sullivan is going to actually have a bigger role in the offense. If it's going to happen, maybe it will be during this bye week. I just don't.
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't trust Kirk Ferentz to actually do anything like that, and so it's almost a waste of breath.
I could see if they're losing by 30 to Ohio State that he puts him in.
Yeah, I could see that, but then that won't change anything the following week.
And
right?
it would put him in a horrible position.
Exactly, and
where
we have seen him do that before. And so I guess again, it puts me back in the mind frame of, hey, this could be a really good season. Not a playoff season, probably. Not a beat Ohio State season, but a 9-10 win season, and feeling good about Tim Lester and what the offense is going to be moving forward. I think we're starting to see some Tim Lester plays and play design and schemes.
He's had a great impact.
It's much better than it has been in the past, and so I think at the very least this season that's what you're hoping for, and at this point I do see that. How about you? How much did this change kind of the way you thought? Because you were starting to
had to win
down.
it. I mean, had to win it. It would be the season would be trashed basically if they lost this game. But I thought they'd win because I didn't think Minnesota was a top half of the Big Ten team, and I think Iowa is pretty good all in all. I'm encouraged. I'm more excited about this team than I have been about the 23 team and the 22 team around this time of year because 23. Cade was injured going into the year, and then it was Deacon Hill, and there was no room really for growth there. 22, you knew what you had in Spencer Petras. You knew you weren't going to be able to compete with the better teams, and I'm not saying I believe that they're going to be able to compete with Ohio State, but here's a couple of things that I really like. They haven't played a complete game yet.
No.
If they put together a complete game or even 3/4 of a game, they've got a great chance to beat anybody they play other than Ohio State. And they have not been able to go downfield yet, and they're still able to run the ball. So if they can just do a little bit more in the throw game, just a little bit more. And I loved it when they would open up those drives, start of the game and start of the second half, with the play action, boot out, toss to the tight end. I love
Great
that.
play, yes.
You don't have to throw it 50 yards down the field. But this offense can score even without a passing game. So if you get a little bit of that, you put 3 quarters together, 4 quarters, hopefully at some point, and this team can be pretty good. You've got the special teams improving. Drew Stevens is now, what, 6 for 6? He's rock solid.
Yeah, he's been great. And he's
Reese
made
Dakin,
every kick he's taken.
by far his best game. Special teams was great. I love Weegan returning kicks. He's not Cooper DeJean, but I really like him returning kicks. He's going to break one soon.
He is.
And you got a defense that is led by Phil Parker, that has maybe the best linebacker in the country, that really improved in the second half of this game. So I there's just little things that I see. Yeah, it's not a perfect team. It wasn't a perfect game. But there's little things that give me hope that this could still be a really good season that could end up in double-digit wins.
You've gotten through the first third of the season now at 3-1, and now you can kind of go into into your film room and see what's working, see what isn't, make some minor tweaks, some minor changes. I would love to see Phil Parker, how pissed he's been, I'm sure, these last couple of weeks. Iowa still needs to shore up some tackling. Still needs to find.
Yeah, there were some missed tackles out there. So that 4th and inches that Minnesota got deep in their own territory. There was a missed tackle.
They're throwing some rotations out in the defensive backfield. You see Entrigger coming in for Wampa from time to time. Yeah. They're still trying to figure out the other cornerback other than Jamari Harris, who had another really good game and a hell of a play to break up what probably would have been a touchdown. He's playing really well, but is it TJ Hall who? Man, we need to go a game or two without hearing TJ Hall's name. You know, it's if you're a corner,
Lee got the
you
start
don't
for
want,
him today.
Yeah,
and they went after him right away, and Lee was pretty good.
He was good, but then Hall had that penalty on the punt return, and it's like, man, we got to go a game or two without hearing your name, young man. But again, I've had faith that the defense and special teams will shore themselves up, just because historically we've seen that happen, and. Again, this offense isn't as vertical or dynamic as you would like it to be, but they're putting up numbers, and they're a competent Division I offense, and that's what we've been asking for a long time. So there's no reason to think that if Iowa stays healthy, they can't rattle off a really nice season here.
And you have Kaleb Johnson, who, as Brad points out in the comments, is on pace for 2,000 yards rushing. 9 rushing touchdowns already this season. He's gone... obviously over 100 every game, but the numbers are
almost 100 and a half.
And now, and now you are going to start hearing a little bit of Heisman talk. You are. I there's no doubt about it. And if he makes some kind of a statement in that Ohio State game, look out.
And as Shea says, Ohio State didn't recruit him. He's got some revenge factor to go into the horseshoe and have a big game.
I love that. Love it. Yeah, he was very lightly recruited coming out of high school. And look, I mean, he's been on this Iowa team the last couple years, and he didn't look like he was
good as a freshman, but last year really kind of fell apart.
It was like he just kind of disappeared. He got banged up a little bit. Now, I mean, he looks like if you built a running back in a lab.
Yes.
That's what you'd make him look like physically, and that's how he would run, and that's how he would break tackles. That's how he'd stride. I mean, it's beautiful to watch. This Iowa offense clicking with the run game anyway.
With the run game.
So we won't have an Instant Iowa next week because we won't react to the idol, the bye.
I'll miss you.
Do we know what time the Ohio State game is yet?
Not yet, unless it's come out in the last few minutes.
So I know that, and you saw it today, anytime that Fox has the ability to get Ohio State at noon, they take it. Yeah. Because Ohio State, and I've talked with people that are a part of that show, Ohio State is the number 1 ratings bonanza team. No matter who they play, you can always count on a big rating. So if Fox has an opportunity to get that thing at noon, and I haven't looked ahead at the schedule for that week, but I think that could be a possibility. I see that's a week where Michigan State and Oregon play on Friday. And there's a ton of TBDs on the Big Ten slate, but here are the biggest games, Okay, you got Michigan at Washington. That can't be a noon game because it's on the West Coast. Then after that, you've got Rutgers, Nebraska. USC at Minnesota. Penn State hosting UCLA. I don't know. Iowa, Ohio State.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan, Washington is whoever is picking first. A TV network might go with that first because it's Michigan. And look, this is a rematch of the national championship game. So whoever has the first pick there, as long as it's not Fox, because it's on the West Coast, is probably taking Michigan, Washington. But I would put Iowa, Ohio State right after that. So I don't know if that ends up, could be the CBS game at 2:30, could be the NBC game at night. Don't see that falling to, and it won't, to any kind of streaming platform. All right.
Two things here before we
Sure.
before we shut this down. I wanted to show. Oh shoot, I have it on the wrong screen there. Let me try to fix this. Did you see what Spencer Petras did tonight?
Oh God, no! What did he do? I saw Utah State was playing one of the worst teams in the country. Temple. Temple's been one of the worst teams forever.
They got their ass kicked.
I thought Petras was going to go off.
He did, but the team lost.
Oh, God.
Temple 45, Utah State 29. But Petras,
my God.
293 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Okay, good for him.
A nice little game.
But they were favored by like 7 in that game. Joey Labus had a big game-winning touchdown throw for Central Michigan. Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite of what Petras did at Iowa. He put up terrible stats and won most of his games.
Yeah.
And at Utah State, he's putting up great stats and losing most of his games. Good for Joey Labus. Good for that kid. Hey, here's the other thing. I just grabbed this off of Iowa's Twitter. Yeah,
ooh,
buddy.
Look at the celebration in the locker room.
In the locker room. Floyd is there. That feels good. It's nice to get that one back. It's awesome to beat PJ Fleck. It's awesome to go up there and exact some revenge from last year. And then to not do it in a way that left any questions. This was an emphatic win in the second half especially. And again, it's not perfect. You have to feel good about things right now, I think, if you're Iowa heading into the bye.
We're seeing many of your comments. We don't see all of them because there are so many, and we can't respond to all of them. But I'm getting a lot of people, like Michael, he's asking, does Kaleb Johnson, does it feel like Sean Green 2008? Have had other people ask, like, he's the most electric Iowa player on offense since who? He's doing things right now that haven't been done since Tavian Banks in, I believe it was 1997.
Yeah.
As far as a start to the season like this, with touchdowns, with yards. The Sean Green season was a little different in that he didn't really explode until midway through the year. And that's why I don't think he got any real Heisman love, because it was all later in the year. Kaleb Johnson is out of the gate. And that's why I think he has a better chance to maybe make some more noise than Sean Green did nationally that season. But as far as most electric offensive player since who? Who would it be, Andrew?
Probably Sean Green, right? I mean, who since then?
Yeah, I mean, you had the DJKs, but DJK wasn't necessarily electric.
No.
He was a really good receiver. Same with Marvin McNutt.
Yeah, exactly. They were very good. Bethard had some moments. He had the play against Indiana, the game against Iowa State, but it wasn't consistent.
Not electric.
Not electric.
You talking electricity? I think it's Sean Green, it's Tavian Banks,
yes.
it's Brad Banks,
it's running
Tim
backs,
Dwight.
right? I mean, this is right. This is Matty Van Wink's producing his ass off over in Bondurant. We appreciate it. He lets us know that through 4 games in 2008, Sean Green had 508 yards and 4 touchdowns. So fewer than half as many touchdowns as Kaleb Johnson has right now.
Yeah, Johnson has 9 and 685 yards for Johnson. So yeah,
and again, that's the key to getting that national exposure, is to do it early, right? To be you're the leading rusher 4 weeks into the season.
I guarantee you, he would be getting more love. He would have gotten more love going into tonight if Iowa was undefeated and ranked.
No doubt. There's no question.
That's how this Heisman stuff is. It's all about is the team ranked? Well, are they undefeated? No. Oh, well, we don't care.
Yeah, so it's probably going to hurt even if he has a big game against Ohio State that Iowa likely won't win that one.
Eric brings up a good one. Akram Wadley.
Yes.
Akram Wadley was very exciting.
Yeah, he was. He had especially some moments that touchdown against Iowa State in that big game. He had was 3 or 4 touchdowns against Northwestern when nobody really even, that was like his kind of breakout game, whatever year that was.
Well,
Boise State's running back, 127 yards just before halftime. So,
well, and here's the thing about
he was
Genty.
the second leading rusher.
So he already had a bye week. So he was actually in yards per game. Genty was averaging like 229 yards per game coming into this. He just had a bye week, so he didn't lead in total yards like Johnson has. But I don't know.
Hey, go shock the
is,
world at Ohio State in a couple of weeks, and everything changes.
Everybody will be talking about that. I mean, if he goes off for 150 in Iowa, even it comes close in that game, there will be people talking. Torque saying the only offensive player since Green in that combo is Wadley. Yeah, I think it's probably a pretty good call.
DeJean was explosive and exciting.
We just didn't use him on offense.
To see him offensively,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, Andrew, they did it. I mean, they had to do it, and they did. They needed to win this. They could not afford to go into this bye week going to Ohio State with a 2-2 record, 0-2 against power teams, 0-2 in rivalry games.
Nope.
In trophy games. They came out, they just punched Minnesota right in their 2 front buck gopher teeth and took home the pig. 31-14. Hawkeyes win it. Andrew, I'll be looking forward to hearing from you on Murph and Andy this upcoming week. It was good to see Andy join from Mexico on Friday. And we will see you on Two Guys on Monday morning as well with Chris and Chris. Instant Iowa, as always, presented by Fareway here in the Channel Seed Studios. Thank you to everyone for watching, for commenting. Go Hawks. The pig is back in town.